Hey fellas, before I begin the video, I would just like to quickly state that I'm not advocating for or encouraging the doxing, targeting, harassment, bullying of any individuals that might be mentioned or featured in this particular video. Remember, this is an opinion piece, my particular commentary on the subject matter, however controversial as it may be. So, with that all said, let's go ahead and start the show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? TujoPanda back in action. Talk about CL today, but something else. It's going to be a little bit different from our usually scheduled broadcasting. But hey, check me out, guys. I'm sporting the new drip. How do I look? Pretty fly for a rabbi, huh? No, I didn't make this, but I did find it, and I did affix it to the avatar. So, I don't know. I just wanted to find some clothes that were actually worth a damn, and not the basic bitch gear that gets disseminated all throughout, like, VR chat. But, yeah, no. I know there's like a ton of subjects and topics of interest I could be talking about right here, right now, but I want to kind of take a break from all of that and talk about something that's a little bit more personal. Just a little bit, you know? Just something that I've sort of noticed. So, YouTubers are kind of a dime a dozen, and if they have a modicum of clout, then they're going to attract an audience, and the audience is going to, like, stick by them. For the most part, a lot of the views seem to be, like, one and done. I say one and done only because, like, the person that's watching the video is only interested in the subject matter that the video is referring to. They don't necessarily feel compelled to subscribe to the channel, so once they watch the video, they get the information they want, whether it's a tutorial or latest and greatest drama about a particular creator out there, or content creator, or anything, like whole 9 yards. They're gonna fuck right off. But the core audience is going to stick by the YouTuber through thick and thin, which, you know, for right now, I have all of you to thank for that, but, like, as far as my channel goes. But, there's a couple of YouTubers that either they were YouTubers or content creators or anything of the sort, but they kind of lost their way, you know? Like, they used to be, like, you know, on top of the world for a little bit. At least they had garnered a little bit of an audience and some influence, but for whatever reason, they kind of fell to the wayside. And three particular names come to mind when I say that. So, they are, just off the top of my head, Linkara, Dillin Thomas, and Rogue Internet Man. Now, you might not have ever heard of these people, and I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't, but maybe some of you have. Now, Dillin Thomas and Rogue Internet Man, they were YouTubers that basically focus on LolCows out there, namely Christian, to just name one off the top of my head. But Linkara did something entirely different. He reviewed comic books. Like, literally, he would just read comic books, and he would come up with little skits, kind of like I did here in VR chat, but with him, it was all live action, you know, and they were pretty bare basic bones, like, budget, you know, like a shoestring budget. Anything that he had on hand that he could sort of, like, put out into, like, action, he would. He had a girlfriend for a bit, transgender girl, but that kind of fell through. But, like, going into just the ins and outs of these people, they were all people that sort of held prominence to some degree. And for whatever reason, they kind of fell to the wayside. They lost the influence they had. But how? Because, like, I had no idea that Linkara had kind of faded into irrelevancy until OneyPlays was making jokes about him. And as far as Linkara goes, he started off as one of the content creators for Atop the Fourth Wall, which is a website that catered to various content creators that made things that were more geared towards, gonna be honest, just not trying to pass judgment here, but nerds and nerd culture and things like that. You know, cool people, generally speaking, they might enjoy a comic book or two, but they're not going to be, like, vested and, like, you know, having to buy each and every fucking issue of a particular comic book or story, you know? Generally speaking. But, you know, Linkara, he was actually pretty funny, I felt like. You know, he was somebody that I had been exposed to years ago, where he would just read comic books straight up, and he would make jokes, crack wise, criticize the story, criticize the artists, criticize the writers, criticize everything about the comics, and, like, you know, it's from there that I sort of gained a sense of, like, who the good creators were at Marvel, who the bad ones were, like Rob Liefeld being a terrible fucking artist, like, so terrible. He earns, like, a lot of money for what he does, but at the same time, if you look his you know, the figures that he draws of various superheroes and whatever, I think it's Marvel. It might have been X-Men. X-Men is not Marvel, if I recall, but You know, it's to the point that all of his characters were drawn, like, fairly similarly, okay? Like a pinhead, massive, like, steroid-ridden body with, like, biceps upon biceps. They had triceps upon triceps. And, like, you know, you think, like, a six-pack abs is impressive? Try, like, an 18, like, pack abs. You know, they were all, like, down from, like, the top of his chest to the groin. And just, you know, all the characters, they kind of had a squint, you know? It was like they were looking into the sun. And because they were all drawn in such a same way, like, you know, Linkara came up with the idea that they had Youngblood's disease, because that was the first time he ever saw that phenomena happen. Now, me personally, I remember some characters along the way, like Brock from, you know, Pokemon. Like, he had Youngblood's disease, possibly even in the tertiary phase, because he was squinting all the time. You know, like, you could never see his eyes. Like, his eyes were perpetually closed. It was a wonder he could even see to begin with, to, like, ogle all those women that he would run into. I think George W. Bush, like, the guy before Obama, he had Youngblood's disease, because, like, he looked like he was always perpetually staring into the sun, you know? Possibly because he was from Texas, but I found out looking into his back history that he was actually like a transplant from Connecticut, so like him acting like a cowboy isn't even accurate, so he's just straight up all liar. You know how I say Hypnotist Sappho is the grandmommy of all liars? George W. Bush is the granddaddy of all liars, but no, like, it was just weird how nobody had a defined sort of, like, pupil or iris. It was always just perpetually closed, like, squinting, like they were looking into the, like, into the sun. Or maybe they were so hardcore that they were perpetually just, like, with their game face on. You know what I mean? But Linkara would just make little light references, things like that, and it was all, like, pretty fun and enjoyable. Granted, bear in mind, take it with a grain of salt, because I did stop watching him because it was really something that my friend got me into, and then I fell out of it because life kind of got in the way. I was going to college, I was doing all this other stuff, I was working on my own projects and stuff like that. So sometimes you just don't have the time to keep up with a particular content creator, but it was later, much later, that he was just, like, you know, basically the butt of the internet's joke. Nobody respected him. OneyPlays made a couple of half-ass jokes about him, and I have to say, OneyPlays is actually really legitimately funny, but in an organic way. They don't try, like, out of their way to be funny. They just are. And Linkara, some of his viewers, he was, like, live streaming Fallout New Vegas at the time. And, like, I'm surprised that he was gotten to, like, gaming, like, live streaming, but, you know, he just got salty as hell, like, in light of people asking him, so, have you seen the OneyPlays, like, you know, joke, like, compilation about you? It's like, no, and I don't have any interest to watch that crap.
Chocolate Gamer, my question was, have you sent the one play or one play fan made game? Yeah,
no, because I have zero desire to ever think about or talk about OneyPlays. They are a YouTuber who is the one who constantly mocks me, makes fun of me, and apparently they do an impression of me that everyone loves. That everyone has to point out, wow, his impression of you is so accurate. And he's the one who popularized people calling me the Lightbringer, based off of my crappy old webcomic. So, screw him.
And it's just like, bro, like, chill the fuck out, dude. People are just poking fun at you, okay? You don't have to get salty Sam over it. You know, you kind of have to laugh at yourself sometimes. Now, if people are just outright disrespecting you, that's a little bit different. But, you know, if it's just like a lighthearted poke and a jab and a fun, like, can't you just have fun with them? You know, or you can fire back and, like, you know, make fun of them for a change. But no, Linkara, he just seems to have this big ego, like a paper-thin ego, that the minute that you criticize him for anything, that he's just going to, I don't know, he's going to get all salty and just, like, not very fun. And people that take themselves too seriously here on the internet, people are, like, they're going to poke fun at you. Like, the minute that they find that out. Like, there have been some people that sort of make reference of the fact and make light of the fact that, you know, if they'll, like, poke and prod at you to test you, right? Like, they'll crack some jokes at your expense to just test the waters, see how you respond, and if you respond favorably, then, you're one of the guys. If you get salty and you act like a basic bitch, then people aren't going to respect you that much because they're going to figure that you can't take a joke, number one, and that you're not really worth their time, okay? Again, like I said, you have to know when to distinguish people just having fun with you and fucking with you, or they're straight up, like, disrespecting you just because. Because there is a fine line between the two. Anyway, that ought to be said. No, Linkara had, like, various, I guess, controversies that bubbled up over the years, His relationship with his girlfriend, like, he like, went with a trans girl, and nothing wrong with that, but Linkara seemed to be, like, in denial about his own sexuality because supposedly he was on Grindr and, like, looking for dudes to fuck. Again, my memory's a little bit fuzzy, but he had very particular tastes in what he sought after as far as, like, sexuality goes. So, but his girlfriend left him, and she went off to review board games as part of her channel, which, hey, all the more power to her, but it just kind of begged the question, it's like, what kind of happened there? Obviously, that's not necessarily my business per se, but, speculation-wise, you gotta wonder, because relationships seem good enough that Linkara, when he was getting into it with this girl, he brought her on to be part of various sketches and skits that were part of his comic reviews. And the minute that you bring a significant other to do, like, videos like this with you, that's a mark that you're fairly close, that the other person has interest with what you're doing, and they have so much of an interest that they're willing to be a part of it and participate, That's like a sure mark right there that things are going all right. But as her appearances became less and less over the years, presumably because, again, like I said before, I had, lost touch. That's where, like, the quarrels between the two sort of came about, and I guess, like, Linkara just kind of let her go, and she went off to do her own thing. But the worst thing about it is that she actually came out and criticized him fairly intensely after the relationship was done and over with. So, I don't know, like, I think it's shitty that the internet would have to feel compelled to, like, get involved in his business, but at the same time, I guess it's a question of his mode of character, because, a spurned lover, it can be twisted any which way. If the spurned lover goes out of their way to sort of, like, share very deep, personal, intimate secrets about you to the World Wide Web, sometimes that's a dick move, that's a bitch move, but sometimes maybe there's some legitimate problems there. And Linkara, as far as his relevancy goes, it seems to have kind of completely evaporated, because back in the day, he actually had a fairly wide audience, at least a respectable audience, people that would return to, like, watch all the things that he did. But later on, it's kind of like Nostalgia Critic. People criticize the half-assed skits and things like that he would do. And you know what? I think that's kind of a dick move to, like, criticize those, because this is somebody that's actually putting time and effort into scripting something and performing for the good of their channel, the good of the audience, and all that stuff. That takes effort, okay? I should know. I'm a wannabe film director myself. You kind of have to have the vision to be able to write something halfway decent, and also have the means by which you can, act it out with whoever you have on board. I remember he was involved with Spoonie, that YouTuber that did various, like, WrestleMania, like, reviews and things like that. And he was involved with Linkara for a bit, but, Spoonie kind of went off the deep edge. Spoonie experiment. He went completely crazy, and he started doing content that his fans, the core audience that he had accumulated over the years, wasn't all that enthused about, all right? Once you, like, obtaining an audience is actually kind of hard. Kind of. Unless you go viral and, like, everybody and anybody just kind of, like, gravitates to your channel and just, is, like, invested in you. So look it up sometime. Linkara, he's basically kind of like a archetypical nerd type. He was opposed to Donald Trump because he's a hardcore leftist, I guess, but at the same time, a lot of the nation was already against Trump, so I'm not, like, bashing for that. It's just that the OneyPlays skit that was, like, the most, like, riffed on and funny, that Donald Trump is giving his... Do you remember that speech that he was giving at one of his Trump rallies? And there was, like, the joke was they were going to throw a dude out. And it's like, don't give him back his coat. Like, he can go out there in the cold. Okay, give him back his coat. They replaced the dude with Linkara. And Linkara actually had the effort to try to make his own comic. It was called The Lightbringer. That's why Linkara is referred to as The Lightbringer. The Lightbringer was kind of a half-assed, like, mishmash of various ideas from Marvel and other comic book series out there combined into one, and it wasn't very good, not well thought out. People even said, like, if you're going to plagiarize or copy ideas from something, execute it well, alright? Like, if it's going to be a ripoff, you might as well do it well than half-ass it from start to finish. And Linkara didn't get the memo because, you know, the perception, by and large, by a lot of people out there is that this was a comic that was not worth reading. And most of the videos that were released about it were criticizing key points about the comic and, like, you know, the webcomic and how it would unfold and how the story was written. It's obviously about superheroes because Linkara has seemed to have a soft spot for, like, heroes, but... you know, you want to look it up on your own time, you can go ahead. I took one look at it, and I'm just like, nah, I'm not going to read this. Sorry, bud. I like your content. I like when you review and, like, shit on bad comics, where bad comics go to burn. I'm trying to remember, like, the theme song that Linkara wrote, where it's like, Linkara, and I can't even remember. It's been so long. I'm just kind of surprised that, you know, years later, you look at the things that he's doing now, and he's just being made fun of and shat on by all the people. Now, granted, like, this all happened a while ago, so don't think it's, like, now, but that was something that's just sort of been on my mind. It's like, holy shit. You know, you see this guy who's, like, fairly respectable, seems fairly respectable, and later on, he's the butt of everybody's joke, and you wonder what happened, and you look into it, and then you're like, oh. Other than that, it's just that Linkara kind of gets snarky with people. You know, he has the time to engage in Twitter arguments with various people out there, and it's just kind of like, dude, if you are somebody that has an audience and you're up here and you're picking on people or picking fights with people, don't you think that's going to weigh negatively on your character? And, like, the way he does it, right? He'll leave, like, snarky comments in relation to people either criticizing him, but sometimes the criticisms are not necessarily malicious. They're not, like, trying to get under Linkara's skin. It's like giving honest-to-God criticism that, hey, listen, man, these are the things that you can probably improve with. You should work on these, and you'll be a better YouTuber for it, and you'll make better content with it, and we're all going to watch it. And instead, like, Linkara takes it as, oh, these people don't know quality if it bit them in the face. I need to defend myself. You know, various, like, content creators out there, like, I remember this one book called Empress Theresa. Terrible book. Terrible book. If you want to waste your life, like, I don't know how many hours it would take you all to read a book, but if you want to waste your life on something that is true garbage, try Empress Theresa, alright? I'm only gonna, like, I don't want to make this video too damn long, but I'm going to tell you right now. The plot is a New English woman named Theresa. She gains godlike powers, and it's to the point where, like, everybody wants her to take herself out of danger. Like, you know, even China wants herself, like, to take herself out of danger. You know, China, the one country with, like, pretty much the absolute worst human rights abuses in the world, like, and pretty much has, like, shows an apathy towards human life, like basic human life and decency. They want Empress Theresa to take herself out of danger. Now, how she got this power, I have no fucking idea. I do know that the creator of that particular book, he would defend his work and try to persuade people to like what he had written, even though it was a terrible book. Now, you might find some positive reviews, although the positive reviews are going to be pretty, how would you say, not related to the book, its writing, or the story. And the author just seemed like he had all the time in the world to defend what he had wrote. And the worst thing about it is he drew his own, like, cover for the book, which was terrible because he's not an artist. Like, you know, a woman's breasts should be, like, maybe right about here. Her breasts were almost up to her chin, if memory serves correctly. But yeah, like, the way the verbiage it's described is very creepy. Like, Empress Theresa is described like if a stalker was watching her, but it's supposed to be just the book describing what's happening in a scene. So, but like, the minute that you have to persuade your audience to like something that they legit don't like, that tells me that your thing isn't very good, to say the least. But, I feel nostalgic because Linkara is somebody that I was exposed to years ago and I had watched, and I liked the things I had watched, you know? I have a fond memory of all that, unsullied by more recent events, but is he going to improve? Is he going to regain the influence and standing that he once had? I doubt it. But that's so much for Linkara. As far as like Dillin Thomas though is concerned, Dillin Thomas was a YouTuber that had, you know, he gained, you know, respectable, if modest, like beginnings, covering Sonic Comics, Chris Chan. Mostly it came from Chris Chan because he was one of those people that would go on the Quickie or various other websites, pick a particular topic, exposiate on all like aspects of the topic, like Chris Chan's finances, his views on like his racist views or his homophobic views or this, that, and the other. There is so much that you can talk about Chris Chan. However, here's the thing. He didn't make anything. He didn't like make the article describing Chris Chan from start to finish about, you know, what Chris Chan was all about, like how he sees this, how he views that, how they're like, you know, how their mind works. This is all secondhand account knowledge, you know, based on research that was conducted by the trolls that had either direct interaction with Chris Chan or was just watching what Chris Chan was doing as far as like his videos and as like stuff is concerned, and could like write all that shit down into like, you know, a Wikipedia style like forum site and in like or I should say an image board, slap that there and allow anybody to come and go as they please to read it. All right. He didn't make any of that. He didn't contribute to all of that. All he did was stumble upon it and like read it. And that's important because some people, like regardless of what they do or don't do, like they stumble upon that material, they read it for the enjoyment of the World Wide Web, and it's like it's made better because of the presentation. Like, imagine if the internet historian covered Chris Chan to the methodical surgical precision that other people have up to date, like the so-called fabled Christorians of history. You'd watch that pretty fucking religiously because his voice is absolutely like silk against gold, all right? You'd probably watch that just for the sake of the fact that it was the internet historian that did it. You know, he'd probably be witty and like charming and funny and just being able to like push this along. Now, here's the problem. Dillin Thomas he didn't even like graduate high school. He dropped out with like, you know, like dollars in his eyes, seeing YouTube as the last bastion of hope to strike it big when he magically attains the following that he thought he would. The problem is that Dillin Thomas has the personality of a cardboard box. Probably less, probably one side of a like cardboard box, because he as an individual seems very one-sided. His voice isn't particularly smooth. It's not really easy on the ears. He as an individual, like, they don't look terrible, but they don't look like freaking like Mick Jagger or anything like that. They don't look that attractive. And the worst thing about it is he couldn't even stay consistent in the material that he was covering, because what happened was Chris Chan, obviously, everything kind of ended when Chris Chan was sent to jail, all right? And the one thing I will say for Dillin Thomas, the one thing I will say in his defense is that he did hold Gibi like accountable when Gibi, like, I don't know if you know who Gibi is, but Gibi's pretty much like him and McSmokey or whatever the fuck their name is. They are the two last like Sonic, I should say Quickie or Chris Chan YouTubers that are A-logging Chris Chan. If you want to know about Chris Chan, they're the people to go to because they got the inside scoop, all right? They go above and beyond to find what they can all about Chris Chan every day. Everything. There were a couple other people that were involved with all that, but it's not to the same degree that McSmokey and, you know, like Gibi actually go to. But Gibi, he took like everything. Remember Isabella Loretta Janke? Like you know, IBJ, I should say. Remember Bella, like Shroom Girl, Shroomer Doomer, the person that her end goal, her plan was to make Chris Chan commit suicide. That was her plan. She wanted to be the queen of the trolls. Thankfully, her grand plan went a little bit pear-shaped, so she didn't quite achieve it. And she sort of got her comeuppance. Last I heard, she was expelled from Texas Tech University. So some good came in the world. It's almost as if I stepped outside that day when I heard the news, and birds were in the air, chirping. The sun was shining. Deer were grazing on my backyard. It was everything was right in the world in spite of everything that wasn't right in the world. Anyway, whatever. Gibi, took some information from her, took it at face value, released an innocent girl's name to the World Wide Web. That's the one thing that I'll defend, Dillin Thomas on, that he held Gibi accountable when nobody else would. I don't know how much, flack Gibi got, because he still clearly has fairly decent standing, is still releasing videos about Christian. But, him and Dillin Thomas seemed kind of similar to me, Gibi is obviously a little bit more polished and a little bit better presentable than Dillin Thomas was, because Dillin Thomas, he had very ham-fisted, efforts into getting into the biz, as we like to call it here on YouTube, because, he wouldn't add any flair or any enunciation to the way he would describe things. He had a very nasally voice. It was even worse than that Kiwi Farms video that I made where my nose was stuffed up the entire time. Worse than that, all right? And if you're going to be a YouTuber, especially a commentary channel, you kind of need some kind of personality that comes out, because then people are going to lose interest. You can be talking till the cows come home, but people aren't going to watch if your voice is grating on the ears. And I'm not trying to shit on him just for the way he sounds, but the presentation's important, right? I try to add this, come on camera, put on my full body, do a little jig, try to be kind of animated in the way that I present things to you all, because I want you to have something to look at. I try to post screenshots, as a visual reference, a medium for you to look at throughout the course of the video. Effort. Because Dillin Thomas, another criticism is that he wouldn't really, edit a damn thing. Whatever, he can't really just hold a conversation like I can from start to finish, because he would fumble over his words. It was almost like he was reading off of a script, except the script that he was reading, there'd be cutoffs, you get to the end of a page, you had to scroll to the next page. You can't just read the whole way through start to finish. You had to see, what I do here is all improv. I don't have to rely on a script. I probably should, but I don't always have time for that, all right? You gotta understand, I'm a busy guy. I got a lot of things going on at all given times. Sometimes work-related, sometimes, personal-related, sometimes just trying to survive every day. But this is fairly organic. Obviously, it could be a lot more condensed, but some of you all seem to like the longer videos, so whatever. If you like it, I'm glad, because I'll be here to deliver on that. But you have to do it well. You can't just imagine if I did it like this, like Dillin Thomas would. It's it's this, no, it's gonna sound incredibly unprofessional, and you're gonna tune that shit out if you haven't closed out the video already. Because the minute I see a YouTuber trying that, granted, if you're just starting, that is completely acceptable, because you don't have the confidence to sustain something for that long. That's why most videos like that are 5 to 10 minutes long, but that's just not enough for me. That's just a personal choice on my part. But in his sort of infinite knowledge, he thought that he was just going to immediately hit it big by doing a half-assed effort at being a YouTuber. Clearly, he did enough that he could attain something of a following, but I'm wondering if that was largely thanks to the fascination surrounding Christian. Because, here's the thing. Christian gets arrested and blah, 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 blah. For a long time, the only thing that you really got out of the whole Christian story was the letters. And the letters, the only reason that we know about the letters is that people would come forward to share them. Some people haven't, because Christian would, more often than not, specifically tell people, hey, I do not want this hitting the internet. I don't want this being shared. This is personal correspondence from me to you. Granted, there's some concerning stuff there, so I'm definitely going to get back into the whole Christian story, but... So, Christian wouldn't be exactly happy that these letters were being released online and shared with all the trolls and the various people that were trying to, like, derail his life, at least, by his estimation, Granted, the treatment of Christian up to this point has vastly improved from the early days when Christian was... kind of well-meaning, but also not a very nice guy. Now they're just completely like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. They are not the same misguided man-child that they used to be, all right? They're obviously demented and deranged if they're going to have relations with their own mother. But this video is not talking about the whole Christian drama, so... But a lot of YouTubers out there, they saw this as a topic that had completely dried up. It was no more content was going to be coming out about Christian. There's only, even in spite of like how much is out there, the perception with a lot of people is that this was going to be the end of the saga, like the final saga. Christian gets sent to jail, never to be released again because, incest with your mother and some other little things that would be the least bit concerning for the general public. Dude, you had fucking people in generalized society that found out about Christian. I don't know how I feel about that. Do you? Because that seems like something that only people on the internet should really know, It's like, imagine walking down the street, you strike up conversation with somebody, either a man or a woman, and the topic of Christian comes up. What are you going to tell them? Are you going to go into intimate detail about how Christian would jizz into a can of fucking Fanta and drink that, called it recycling? Because that's something that Christian did in the past, because he had complete misunderstanding about the human anatomy and shit like that. But again, there's only so much that you can talk about until it becomes saturated. When it becomes saturated, you kind of have to move on to the next topic of interest. For me, it's other people that have either done wrong or have been planning to do wrong, or, things that I feel should be talked about, like the relations of friendship to you, or maybe even relationships in the future, or my concerns for the future of our society. Those are topics of interest that I just they had a basis in observations I had in just the general public of our society, and I felt like they were worth talking about, and I could sustainably talk about it for 30 minutes to an hour. I say all of that because Dillin Thomas, their idea was that they were going to be like other commentary channels, people that talk about other quote-unquote LolCows out there. Now, when I say LolCows, obviously that's Kiwi Farm speak or Encyclopedia Dramatica speak for people that are weird and or funny, inadvertently funny, or people that have done enough wrong that would merit a conversation about them. Because it would happen, alright? But the problem with Dillin Thomas is that all of these videos didn't do too well. Alright? The views just weren't there. And Dillin Thomas, he never graduated high school and he didn't go to college. You kind of have to go to high school to get to college. I should know. I graduated from both. And, even then, even after graduating high school and college, you're not guaranteed a job. You kind of have to fight for that. You have to go to job interviews. You have to make yourself marketable. You have to have skills, or at least the willingness to do something that you should be able to do, sustainably, to do the job well and get paid for it. Dillin Thomas, on the other hand, maybe in a larger sort of picture sort of way, this is a perfect encapsulation as to why Dillin Thomas will never be a good YouTuber. They don't have the personality for it, number one. There's people out there that have raw talent, but maybe it just needs to be sharpened with experience, all right? They go out there, they try their hand at being a YouTuber, and they're sort of like a diamond in the rough. I can't say the same for Dillin Thomas, all right? I'm sorry. And, I could see that he was trying, but he wasn't trying hard enough. It was a very half-assed, ham-fisted attempt. And if he's not willing to, settle for a day job like I did, and some other YouTubers do, because most of them treat this as a hobby, what money that you're lucky to walk away with, you are lucky to have. Dillin Thomas's whole game plan was to go out there and try to make this his full-time job. Yeah, don't quit your day job, Dillin Thomas. Oh, wait, you don't have one, bud, because you basically bet everything that you had on a platform that the days of JonTron and the Game Grumps and PewDiePie are over, bud. Okay? Like, this is reality. You're not going to strike it rich just because you want to. You kind of have to work at it. And there's like people out there that put a lot more effort and time into things than I or Dillin Thomas do combined, you know? And they don't even make it. So you kind of have to have luck on your side, but you have to have all these other little things that are going to be there for you because the algorithm is so unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. And it's like always safer to have a plan B. Dillin Thomas didn't have that. He's like, you know, maybe that's something I should admire him for. It's like, whether I do or die, I'm going to try to become a YouTuber right here, right now. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to talk about these LolCows, and I'm going to make that audience, or I'm going to die trying. I'm curious as to what his day life is like. Does he have parents that support him? Does he have like a legal guardian, or is he living or mooching off of a relative? I'm genuinely curious, and if it seems like I'm being very harsh on Dillin Thomas, this is somebody that, in spite of people suggesting or offering criticism, hell, you know, if you're a YouTuber and you're trying to make money on this platform, I'm not going to criticize you for it, but if you're offering a shitty product, because these videos are pretty much products, if you are spending time watching this, enjoying it, then you kind of have to imagine that you need to make the product appealing. You need to put effort into it. You need to offer something that people actually want to watch. That's why videos like, you know, that new Netflix series of Game of Thrones is not doing too well, because it's not exactly... I'm not even going to get into that. But anyway, offering a shitty product is not going to net you views. It might net you views, actually. If it's so bad it's good, or it's so shitty that everybody's dunking on it, but that's probably not the attention you want. If you're trying to get people that are going to be return people like watching your content, that you're going to have to put some effort into it. Dillin Thomas didn't do any of that, alright? So the minute that he started to transition away from Sonic stuff and Christian stuff into like the broader topics of interest that we talk about here on the daily, it all kind of fell through, because Dillin Thomas, he didn't even seem like he was that interested in what he was talking about. And that's why I don't talk about all the drama that happens here under the sun. I have to be tethered to it in like some way, shape, or form. Interested in it either because of my contempt of the people involved, as was the case with like Hypnus Sappho and Kira the Wolf, who I saw as caustic and damaging to the furry fandom, like for example, or because I have a vested interest in it. Like, it appeals to me that I can talk about it. You know, it really depends, but you kind of have to be interested in what you're actually talking about it. Because if you're not fucking interested in it, then how the fuck is your audience supposed to be interested in what you're talking about? You know, so many little things that should be obvious to anybody and everybody, but went right over Dillin Thomas's head. You know, he figured he could just... You know, I've had hit professors in college that were like that. They would read straight from the book. They weren't necessarily bad people. They just weren't very interesting to listen to, because, like, rather than extend their own personality into what they were teaching, they would read straight from the book, something that you and I can do in our own time if we so wished. You know what I mean? That's a waste of time to be like sitting in a lecture hall listening to somebody that's effectively preaching from the Bible. That's like a tantamount to that. But like even preachers and priests in the churches and things like that and cathedrals, they have to like have good oratory to captivate their audience to listen to what they're saying. You know, like, you know, citing the gospel and such like that. I've been at church for years. I think the most fun, like, presentation of a church has got to be gospel churches when you get up and dance. Like, that seems like a hell of a lot more engaging to me than, like, just reading from a damn book. But anyway, so that's what Dillin Thomas would do. And the worst thing about it is, he pulled a card right out of the playbook of DarkSydePhil. DarkSydePhil, if you don't know who he is, he's basically a live streamer. He's a live streamer that has had a very sordid history. Has the personality of a cardboard cutout, is absolutely terrible, caustic, made racist jokes in the past on live stream that basically got him removed from Machinima and various other partnership programs that he was a part of. But, his sense of humor is rather crude or non-existent, and just when he's playing games, I'm impressed that he still even exists here on, the internet, because who's watching him? Who finds him funny? Who finds him entertaining? I mean, I suppose if you're watching somebody that's, incompetent, it's funny to watch them, waffle their attempts, but even Keemstar dunked on him. It's like, yo, bro, I got fuck you money now. I got my money and got out of, the whole YouTube gig. You're still on level 1. And, DarkSydePhil is so inept that there are actually people out there that make videos on everything he plays. And it's like, this is how you don't play this game. Or this is how you don't be a live streamer. Anyway, all that to say, DarkSydePhil, he would constantly beg his audience to click on advertisements, something that you're not allowed to do when you got AdSense and things like that. And just ask people to support him blindly for things that may or might not ever happen, because he was supposed to do collaborations and things with his friends. The agreement fell through, so he never delivered on that and various other things. Dillin Thomas did the exact same thing. He comes out and he's basically shitting on his own audience, saying, you guys wanted me to diversify, I diversified, but the views aren't there. It's like, yeah, bud, because you made a shitty fucking product. Nobody wants to watch that shit. They don't want to watch that crap. They want something entertaining. They want something captivating. They want something new, fresh. Something that, extends your personality into what you are presenting to the audience, all right? That's what they want. They don't want to hear you drone on and on and on about somebody they give too less of a fuck about. But, he didn't get the message. He just doesn't seem to understand that you kind of have to play to the tune of your audience. It is great if you can release videos out there, independent of your expectation of how many views you get, that you attract an audience through that. The problem is you gotta diversify, okay? If you, maybe you don't have to, but whatever you're doing had better be damn good, and in the foreseeable future is going to continue, because life is unpredictable, It's like Minecraft. You still have Minecraft players and Minecraft live streamers and YouTubers out there. That is great. That is gold. But someday Minecraft might go out the window, okay? Someday Fortnite might go out the window. Someday, all this other stuff is going to go out the window. You constantly have to be looking to the future, and Dillin Thomas couldn't even achieve a foothold in being a decent YouTuber, because after the Chris Chan drama dried up, so did the views on his videos. So yeah, I say all that because he is an abject failure of a YouTuber, and his rebranding, he rebranded himself several times, and the last one was laughably terrible. You know how a lot of VTubers, or I should say 2D tubers or whatever, they would have an avatar that's basically two-dimensional, but it's animated. So whenever you do something, you turn left, you turn right, the lips move, and it syncs up to your voice. He tried that. The problem is what he had before was arguably better than what he had then, because he's just this, this black-haired kid wearing a jacket kind of like mine and looks all smug and smarmy, but it looked like something that you would start the YouTube biz with, not something that you would turn to after you've already been on the platform for several years. Imagine if, I use this all the time as opposed to the big otter. I use the little otter. Some of you might like that, but that's not why you come to the channel, bud. You come here for different things, okay? You kind of or worse yet, what if after my rebranding, I adopt a dragon, but I still keep the name TujoPanda? Wouldn't you guys be a little bit confused? You'd be like, Tujo, why are you still a dragon? Shouldn't you be TujoPanda? I don't come here to watch Tujo Dragon. I come here to watch TujoPanda. He doesn't seem to get it. And, the rebranding, it wasn't even well executed. Because what he got, that, two-dimensional image of himself, I guess it's supposed to be him, I don't know, but it's just not very well done compared to what he had before. He actually, What I remember is that it was a more masculine presentation of himself, but even that was better than like this two-dimensional fuck. And the worst thing about it is people were complaining to him about it, and he was like saying, well, you better learn to like it because it's what I'm going to stick with. And it's like, okay, if a couple of naysayers are bashing you for like doing that, fine, whatever. Like, if you want to be like, well, if you don't like it, leave. But this is also your audience you're talking to, okay? The people that you want to watch your content. It's important to get the views if you want to make money on the platform. If you don't really care about the money on the platform, then you do whatever you want, but you are beholden to the people that you're hoping are going to either like watch to give you the views necessary to get the ad revenue to get paid at the end of the day, or they're going to go on your Ko-fi or Patreon and donate to you and contribute to your financial success. That is why Dillin Thomas's his responses, his reactions to his own audience, getting angry at them that they weren't watching his crappy videos and things like that, and weren't like offering him Patreon dollars, was kind of just laughable to me. Like, the minute that you turn on your audience like that, that's not a good sign for your channel. You know, you got to kind of vibe with your audience. You don't establish like a retaliatory relationship with your audience. You kind of have to like vibe with them. And if they like what you are, like your personality, like the way you present things, then, you know, you're going to keep them around. If they don't like your personality and they don't like the way that you're treating them, then they're going to walk. Or worse yet, they're going to become enemies and critics of you. So, yeah. I know I put a lot of emphasis on Dillin Thomas, but just segueing from that, there's somebody that's sort of indirectly related to Dillin Thomas. Rogue Internet Man. He's almost like a mini, like, Mr. Medicare. Or at least that was what he seemed like he was trying to do. Because he had like the Sleeping Dogs outfit that seemed ripped right from the game. But I kind of liked his, like, content. I didn't like how edgy he was. He's kind of like the normie equivalent of Coyote Lovely. Coyote Lovely, if you're watching this right now, this is no offense to you, bud. I just consider you, Mr. Medicare, and like Rogue Internet Man to have formed sort of like the Trinity to me. Obviously, Mr. Medicare, or Jim as he prefers being like called, is like really up here, okay? He is savage. He don't give a fuck, like, you know, about anything. He hates furries, presumably. He hates a lot of things that happen here on the internet, but, you know, you gotta respect a guy who can be like independent and say whatever comes to mind. The one thing that people would criticize is that he claims he doesn't want the views and attention when he, you know, actually does. But, you know, why do you make videos here on YouTube if not to get some views? Now, if you're only doing it for the views, like Dillin Thomas was, and you got like no investment in it, either emotional or monetary, then people aren't going to stick by your side for very long. Hate to say it, but that's how it goes here. All right. Rogue Internet Man, he seemed fairly polished. He had a good voice. He had a good demeanor for getting to the bottom of various dramas and things that were happening out there at the time. He also played his hand into talking about the various Christian dramas that were cropping up. The one thing that was kind of weird is that he started like this sort of ongoing saga. He would introduce characters that would make reoccurrent like appearances in his like various videos, because he was a 2D tuber, okay? Like, he also had a hand-drawn character that would like showcase who he was as like the character Rogue Internet Man, and like just talk about whatever drama was going on at the time. He had a server, and what was crazy is that Rogue Internet Man seemed to have wanted to go out of his way to, 1, hit it big on YouTube, 2, become famous and well-known and popular while also simultaneously being anonymous. I'm not saying that, like, you gotta share your name with the World Wide Web. A lot of people go out of their way not to share those particulars with the World Wide Web. They don't want people knowing their face. So that's why face reveals, like what Dream did the other day, are so sought after and groundbreaking in some ways. What I find funny about Dream is that he basically got sidelined by Sam O'Nella, who had been in hiatus for like 2 or so years since 2020 and came back. So Dream's stunt of revealing his face kind of went right out the window. People immediately were rejoicing that Sam O'Nella had finally returned to regain and reclaim his title as a prominent YouTuber here. And like, Sam O'Nella, right? He presents like, you know, MS Paint stick drawings. But the way he does it, his voice is buttery smooth. And the presentation, the jokes are genuinely funny. The formula that he uses for his videos are fairly consistent, and they're just, like, very well done. Like, taking the bare bones basic of component parts together to formulate a video. He is the one person I would say where less is more, and he definitely researched his topics of interest that he talks about. Granted, he doesn't touch drama with a 10-foot pole. He talks about various, like, arcane or esoteric facts that are interesting, or historical facts, or events in history, or the scientific names for things. But he does it in such a way that keeps people coming back for more. Alright? Rogue Internet Man. He would maintain a bit of a following on Discord. He had a vast following on Discord. A lot of people were fans of Rogue Internet Man. Granted, I think, like, for context, he only got to about 30,000 subscribers. A decent chunk of viewers, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like Highly Lovely. We are all under 100,000 subscribers, okay? Like, Mr. Medicare, Jim, he can attract a wide audience. It's like, we can't. We don't have the name, we don't have the clout, we don't have the backing, we don't have things like that. But we're trying, best we can. The problem is Rogue Internet Man, right? He disappeared completely one day. People were sort of, like, looking around, just being like, where in the world is Rogue Internet Man? And Rogue Internet Man, he's probably on the same page as Kiwi Farms are. Like, he doesn't seem to like furries, but he doesn't go out of his way to, like, shit on furries either. So I guess the best way I could describe it is maybe neutral, like neutrality. I have no idea, but because I've never spoken to the guy, right? I've spoken to Kylie Lovely, but I've never spoken to Rogue Internet Man. I don't have a good sense of what his demeanor and personality is actually like, except through the videos where he would talk about things, and he assumed a character. He, like, was openly honest with people towards the end of his run, where he just basically said, "Hey, I am retiring this character effective immediately. All right." And, like, hey, I appreciate y'all sticking around for the ride, but unfortunately the heat in the kitchen's too hot. I gotta step out. Hey. Why did this happen? Well, his personal docs was released to the World Wide Web because a particular someone in his Discord, I forget her name off the top of my head, because again, a lot of this, I wasn't that invested in Rogue Internet's story to really, like, know the ins and outs of everything that had happened, but what I can tell you is that one of the reasons I don't establish a Discord, one, I don't have time, two, I don't have mods that I could, like, run it. Now, presumably, I could look to the audience and appoint people at random, like Kelly Shea. I'm sure he'll make a good mod. Take the sacred oath of the Panda Kingdom that you will never stab me in the back. I will also appoint Kaya Wu. I will appoint Puppies Are Power. I will appoint various people to their dominion as my vassalage, and together we will thrive. We will go to that sacred valley beyond the gorge, where there is free of zoophiles and pedophiles, where we may live in peace and harmony for the hereafter. Not a kid. But you know what I mean. Like, Discord servers are an investment in time and effort. You kind of have to make time for your audience to have direct relations with them. Hell, like, I can barely keep up with my friend groups, let alone, like, you all. And, like, I always rejoice in the time that I share here, where I actually, like, talk to you about a given topic of interest. It's, like, also kind of a liability, because there are various subversives that can sort of just creep into your Discord servers. That is why moderation is key. You have to have moderators to sort of establish the law of the land. Make sure that people that are trying to undermine your efforts here online or get, like, dirt on you are not going to prevail. However, people that are close to you can also just as easily become your mortal enemies. That's what happened to Rogue Internet Man. There was, like, a girl, I believe she was a trans girl, that had gotten close to Rogue Internet Man, showed very keen interest in him as well as various people that were in the server, and was also simultaneously trying to basically blackmail somebody. She wasn't really trying to blackmail them in the conventional sense. She was trying to sell them a fursuit that, like, the sale was supposed to be one and done. However, the person's partner didn't really approve of the purchase, and they hadn't even gotten the fursuit, so they asked for their money back. The person denied, and that's about the point where Rogue Internet Man was like, okay, I'm getting very sussy vibes from you right now. We're done, okay? Get out of here. Get the fuck out. Now, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, whether they're trans or biologically female, because this girl, right, she goes out of her way to sort of engage with various people that were also close with Rogue Internet Man to get his real life name, his address, and various aspects about his mode of character, and try to cause as much damage as humanly possible, because she's one of those people that when somebody snubs you, right, some people take that as, oh, you're my mortal enemy now. I will destroy you. That's what she did. And Rogue Internet Man, apparently his real life was a little bit more fragile than his online life was, because he would go out of his way to sort of present himself as this hard-ass, hard-nosed detective type that couldn't be swayed, couldn't be bought off, couldn't be influenced, couldn't be, scared off. However, once, real life people in his life were being contacted, like his family and his friends and various other things, he admitted that his family, what little he has left, is already fractured, and that he doesn't want his own bad actions to get out there. He admitted that he had gotten into a fight and got sent to jail, once upon a time, because he was a loudmouth punk, which, I have to say, takes some balls to sort of admit your own wrongdoing, honestly. Because people, once something happens, they will try to delete everything a part of it to avoid it getting back to them. The skeletons in your closet, right? You don't want that shit getting out. Here, Rogue Internet Man. Granted, this was at his final video, his final goodbye, his sort of tour de France out of here. Hey fellas, I'm pausing the video here real quick because I just wanted to state that I am fully aware that Rogue Internet Man did in fact come back. He didn't really go into too much detail as to what made him quit the internet in the first place, but I guess it's really left to his departure video as to all the wild and crazy bullshit that was unfolding around him at the time. He seems to have toned down his tone of voice when he's presenting material, so he's not really playing up the character like he did before, but if you watch his departure video, this would make complete sense because he admitted that he was playing up a character for our entertainment. I would have thought it would be tragic if he just disappeared from the internet forever. So personally, I'm glad he's back, and he basically picked up operations right where he left off. At the same time, I just want to be completely transparent with y'all and state that, yes, indeed, he came back. Anyway, but no, he decided it wasn't worth it anymore. It wasn't worth making all of that content online if his real life family was going to be in jeopardy, as well as his loved ones. And he just wanted to live an ordinary, quiet life outside of YouTube now that he was finally getting bit in the ass. By his own actions. His own associations with people had finally caught up to him. And, various people would release little tidbits of information to try to, embarrass him or make his final memory here online embarrassing, but he left enough of an impact that there are channels out there dedicated to archiving all of his old videos that people are still watching to this day. So clearly, he made a little bit of an impact. He made some waves, alright? But at the same time, you gotta wonder, is there more to the story than his final Tour de France? Oh, goodbye, I'm out of here. So, he admitted that his brother was kind of fucked up, I'm gonna suspect drugs, drug abuse, injecting and stuff like that. But all that to say, he was definitely out of here. He had gotten spooked. Other YouTubers aren't so well moved by even if they got doxxed, for instance, Coyote Lovely. He stuck to his guns. He wasn't going to be scared off. He wasn't going to be fucked with by the likes of reminisce. So I can only imagine what kind of dirt this girl got on Rogue Internet Man. Now, here's the interesting part. Rogue Internet Man and Dillin Thomas have a little bit of an overlapping history, because they did a couple of collaborative streams. The problem is, Rogue Internet Man had to take a leave of absence, and he didn't have the time, or he didn't have the wherewithal to let Dillin Thomas know. And Dillin Thomas felt spiteful, and there was once upon a time that I would feel the same way. I'm a lot more nuanced now, as reminisce would so often say. But, you kind of take it on, the chin. You don't badmouth the people because you feel like you got snubbed. You don't know the full story. You have no idea what's going on in somebody else's life. And when Rogue Internet Man came back, Dillin Thomas, like he so often does, one thing I forgot to tell you about Dillin Thomas. They also seem to suffer from a paper-thin ego because they will go out of their way to pick fights with other YouTubers out there and create drama where none should exist at all. The one that I know the most about is the one between he and Rogue Internet Man, because like he was talking mad kinds of shit, all kinds of shit about Rogue Internet Man, and Rogue Internet Man like eventually Dillin Thomas reached out to him to have a talk.
So tonight's the night. Dillin wanted to talk, and I guess we're gonna talk. All right, there you are.
Hello.
Hey. All right, and yeah, they can hear you. So
Great.
what's up?
I just figured we should talk.
Like, what's there to? What do you want to talk about specifically? I mean, where does this all start?
Well, I know that you've had issues with me for a few months now. You keep bringing me up on multiple streams, and that's how I knew that you had issues with me.
Well, Dillin, I mean, I don't personally have an issue with you, but I do think you're disingenuous. And I'm not going to lie and say that I'm not disingenuous. What I do is incredibly predatory. But
if you think I'm disingenuous, that's fine.
Yeah,
I can't disprove it to you.
Well, yeah, because it's objective fact. So you and we did that stream together and everything, and you came to me. You wanted me to watch Chris videos with you. I agreed. Figured, this would be mutually beneficial. Why not? And we did them. I don't think they were very good, but your audience seemed to like them, and that's fantastic. However, later on, as we were doing it, I actually got pretty sick, and I wasn't able to show up, and I was taking care of life stuff while I thought I was dying. And after that, then I had to move because I had to get out of a living situation I was in, and then I had to go deal with some other life stuff. And you were aware of this. I mean, you saw the time where there was the fundraisers and everything, but then when I wasn't able to show up, that bothered you, and I understand that, but you have to understand that when it comes to survival, I have to make sure that not only am I making sure I'm not getting sick or getting better from being sick and taking care of my family and getting things in order, but I also, if I'm going to spend my free time on YouTube content, I've got to focus on my own stuff because, honestly, my day job doesn't pay enough. I've got to eat.
I'm fine with that. My only concern is that you could have hit me up and told me in advance, hey, I can't make this recording, so then I can use that time to reschedule something else and do something else for that day, instead of waiting for you and you weren't replying.
Well, that's the thing, is I'm incredibly busy, and if you were a responsible business operator or owner, whatever, however you're running your little thing here, you would say, well, if this person's a no call, no show, I just do something else. You can't just sit there with your thumb up your ass. If you were a boss, if you were a boss and your employee doesn't come to work, would you just fucking sit there looking at the door waiting for him to show up? Or are you gonna go ahead and get the other people going on their job and then you do your thing and make money? Because
I'll tell you what I did. I ended the show because you quit showing up.
Yeah, you ended the show, and I was more than willing to come back and do things, but you ended it because I was sick and taking care of life shit. Because Dillin, you're not important enough for me to value what you're doing at all fucking times. I mean, come on, you're just a guy on the internet.
That's fine, but if you don't have the time for it, why would I continue to try to stress you out and make you do something you don't want to do?
It wasn't stress to me because I didn't care.
So you were commenting on the videos telling people that you didn't like the show. You did it multiple times, Rogue. How am I going to get you
so
to
fucking what?
doing...
So fucking what? I agreed to do it.
How am I supposed to continue to get you to do the show when you don't
because
like
I fucking agreed to do it. Are you that fucking stupid? I agreed to do it with you.
Can you not insult me, Rogue?
Are you gonna cry? Come on. Just talk like a fucking adult. You're fucking lying.
I am talking like an adult. I'm not lying.
You've got 1,400 people watching you, so
I'm not afraid of you, Rogue. I'm not afraid of you.
That's why your voice is shaky. I'm talking to you right now,
and then when I bring up
counterpoints, you try to talk over me. You try to talk over me.
I'm not talking over you.
You are attempting to.
If I am, then I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry that I'm obviously talking over you.
Rogue,
Jesus
you're
Christ.
acting like a child right now. Can we?
There's 1,431 people here seeing you act like a fucking idiot.
You're the one acting like an idiot. You're the one insulting people. You're the one raising.
And, if somebody's talking shit about you behind your back, but they act all sweet and innocent to your face, that is the absolute fucking worst. There's being polite in somebody else's company, but if you're going to go out of your way to, be two-faced like that, that's pretty fucking shitty. But then again, Dillin Thomas is a beta male cuck, so what would surprise me more, right? Something I forgot. Dillin Thomas used to have a sweetheart, but that kind of fell through, and he claimed that it didn't affect him in any way, but it definitely did. I mention all this because it became sore topics of interest during, like, his talk. A talk that Dillin Thomas initiated trying to talk to Rogue Internet Man for, like, a resolution. And I think things would have gone a lot better if Dillin Thomas didn't say a damn thing about Rogue Internet Man up until that point. But he did.
Because you're the one who's constantly caused fucking problems, and I've seen the logs of you talking shit. I've heard murmurs of people that are close to you. No, hold on. You can ask one in a moment. I've heard murmurs of people that are close to you saying that you were talking about me. Now, I figured you would, because I've seen your history where you always got to dissolve every stream. You always, somebody who's your internet friend is now your online enemy. So I figured, okay, whatever. But I didn't give it much mind, and of course, if somebody brings it up to me, I'm just going to brush it off as a joke, because that's the only way to approach it.
And Rogue Internet Man already, like, got the straight dope. He got a sense of what Dillin Thomas had said from various sources, people that talked to both Dillin and Rogue Internet Man, and, like, you know, he, as far as he was concerned, he was just going to make a public spectacle out of this to embarrass Dillin Thomas. And the worst thing about it is 1,400 people were watching the live stream at the time, you know? So, and like Dillin Thomas just made a fool of himself. And like this was during when, like, you know, Rogue Internet Man was still like living large, living happy, doing the things that he needed to do, doing live streams with other people, making videos on his, by his own accord. But he basically pointed a lot of little things out to Dillin Thomas that, hey, like, buddy, I work a full-time job, but it doesn't pay enough for me to eat. I gotta be able to eat here, bud. Like, I need to make money on my own time. And Dillin's just like, well, why'd you leave without telling me? It's like, dude, when I'm coughing up blood, my first priority is to see to my own health and to make sure that my family's going to be well taken care of financially if I'm going to be out of the picture for a little bit, all right? I was going to come back, I was going to let you know, but I kind of had to take a leave of absence, drop everything I was doing, including my own projects, to take care of myself. And Dillin Thomas was just very tone deaf throughout the whole thing. A loser. Dillin Thomas is a loser. But like, the dialogue really sort of demonstrated the contrast between Rogue Internet Man and Dillin Thomas, because Rogue Internet Man, at the very least, in the moment, he seemed like the adult in the room that was just saying it like it was.
I'm not mad at you, Rogue. I've been trying to tell you that.
You're not mad at me,
now.
But that's why you when somebody else was talking about you on the Twitter shit, and then you got pissy, and then you wanted to fucking debate. I just thought it was fucking dumb, man.
I
just
never
be the bigger man and fucking block
you.
Me if I'm that such a bad guy. You brought it up. You brought it up.
Debate you.
Whose idea was all this shit?
I said I wanted to talk to you, Rogue. Not
and you
debate.
brought up doing it live. I didn't want to fucking talk to you, period.
To me privately.
Because I'm not obligated to you. You're not my fucking girlfriend.
And
I'm not your girlfriend because you don't have one fucking period, man. I don't owe you anything.
I chose in my relationship, Rogue. I chose to move back down here with my money.
That's fantastic. What little money you fucking got. I didn't want to do anything with you because you owe nothing to me and I owe nothing to you.
Yeah, he was snarky. He would, like, insult Dillin Thomas a couple times, but granted, I think that's, like, fully fair. If someone you know has been talking mad shit about you, you get them in the room, and they're going to try to act like they're all, like, your friend and stuff, and they're all, like, on your side, but you know it's, like, they're full of shit. Yeah, I'd probably be working in some witty comments, to say the least. But anyway. So, like, they have a conversation, and that right there kind of cemented Dillin Thomas as being a beta male cuck. Nobody wanted to hang out with Dillin Thomas anymore. His views plundered, like, even lowly and lower, like, right through the ground. And Dillin Thomas kind of quit after that. I think he's got a new channel, and it's something completely different. It's not Dillin Thomas anymore, but unilaterally, like near and far, various YouTubers took notice of the drama that had sort of transpired from then to now, and they looked into Dillin Thomas's history, everything that he had done. This is far more pervasive than what happened with Linkara. You know, Linkara, he got, like, you know, called the butt of the joke a couple times, but, like, it wasn't sustained, like, you know, condemnation from the world at large. It was just people laughed at him now. They lost respect for him and whatever. It's not like permanent. But with Dillin Thomas, he became the epitome of failure trying to become a YouTuber, you never become a YouTuber unless you know you got the talent, you know you can bring in the views, and you absolutely know your audience, and they're going to come out for you and provide you the funds necessary to sustain your craft. All right? Dillin Thomas just made mistake after mistake, rebranded himself one too many times in so many ways that, like, what he started with and what he ended with was so bastardized that it alienated his audience, and he couldn't even be interesting enough to provide, like, the content that people were really looking for, okay? If people come to you for Christian and you just shrug your shoulders and it's like, then you're probably going to lose them, okay? I try to diversify here, like, as an example. Dillin Thomas should have done that, but he should have done so in an organic way, because people are going to recognize that if you're just doing it for the views and you're not willing to provide, like, you know, effort and determination, or like even giving a care about what you're talking about, then how the fuck are they going to, like, be invested? So Rogue Internet Man, by all accounts, put Dillin Thomas in his place. If you want, like, a fucking, like, you know, image, or I should say a short clip to sort of encapsulate the situation, I'll go ahead and show you right here, right now.
Hey, it's time to punch this man. I punched this man. What am I?
Thank you to Senor Palo, and the person that edited this, like, is just gold. So yeah, but wheeling it back to Rogue Internet Man, keep your enemies close, or I should say, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. But Rogue Internet Man perhaps took that too literally, because a former friend became enemy and basically kicked up all the shitstorm to the point that Rogue Internet Man deleted everything. He deleted his channel, he deleted all the videos, he deleted everything that he possibly could. He was trying to remove any sense of a internet footprint online, so that, presumably to throw people off of his trail, so that, you know, nobody would, like, go after him. And the crazy thing, the absolute crazy thing, is that the original video has been copyright struck. Like, Rogue Internet Man probably isn't there to defend it, because once he made that video, he was Audi 9000. So what I think happened is it was probably false flagged, because there was no content really showing, like, you know, other people's videos or even showing imagery of other people. It was just his testimonial and explaining, hey, this is what I gotta go. I'm sorry, I wanted to be here. I really was interested in playing the character. That's what it was. Rogue Internet Man is a character I played, but I'm no longer interested in that now that my family's in jeopardy and in danger of, like, outside harassment and things like that. I'm out to live a quiet life now. So he does that, and presumably the people that were out to get him, like, false flagged the video to try to control the narrative and control the dissemination of information, because, again, I'm straining my brain right now, because, like this girl, right? She's a flim-flam artist. What he claims is that this girl, right, she got all this information about him and then would go out of her way to sort of paint Rogue Internet Man in a negative light, like, say things that he didn't even was guilty of. Similarly to, like, Hypnotist Sappho saying the same thing about Coyote Lovely. Just going out of her way to damage his credibility. And when she hit close to home, he was like, fuck this. This is not worth it anymore. It's not fun anymore. And I have to be, like, the least bit charitable. I liked Rogue Internet Man's, like, content, alright? Now, not all of it was good, okay? The little intros that he would do for his videos were kind of cringy sometimes, but for the most part, I can respect him for what he was trying to do, okay? One thing that I can't really get over is the fact that, like, he was willing to burn it all down. So, whatever was going on with his family has got to be pretty fucking serious for him to, like, say, fuck that, leaving it all behind, I'm out of here. But maybe something truly terrible did happen, like IRL, and, like, he jeopardized his standing with his own family. Maybe. The only tragedy out of, like, Rogue Internet Man's story is that the girl that was trying to bilk thousands upon thousands, I think it was actually only $1,400. So it wasn't like $3,000 or $5,000. This was like an owned suit that had lost some of its luster, and she was just trying to get rid of it to get some money. Presumably to get a Pomeranian puppy, which I had an ex-girlfriend that had one. They are high-maintenance dogs, and they're kind of pricey, okay? So, I believe that's like the whole story, that at least that's the story that he presented, was that she was trying to get the money so that she could buy herself a particular breed of dog that was already high maintenance and also difficult to take care of, that she probably didn't even have the means to take care of, but she wanted it, and she was willing to rip somebody off for it with the promise of a fursuit that they never even got. They probably got it later, but, you know, like, they called it off. They said, hey, listen, now you can make the argument that, hey, like, they agreed to it, whether or not their partner was in agreement with the fursuit purchase. But, you know, there's a reason why when you're in a relationship with somebody and you're sharing your funds with them, you kind of relate to them or, like, talk to them about big-ticket purchases. Something so frivolous as a fursuit, I have no idea about their living situation. I have no idea about, like, what their expenses are. I have no idea where they even live. But, like, buying something so frivolous as a fursuit when you might be struggling just to get by, especially right now in today's economy. Like, this was still during the COVID-19 pandemic, so you know how, like, rents were sort of suspended for a while out of necessity to keep people, like, locked indoors and safe and sound away from other people? It was probably like that, and, like, you know, even then, you know, life's still kind of hard. The economy took a nosedive, and people are still struggling right now. You know, it might get a little worse with this winter. Who knows? But, like, big-ticket purchases like that, frivolous purchases like that, it's obviously going to cause your significant other to question you about it, and maybe they just didn't have the money. Like, the one partner thought they did, the other partner said, we don't. Like, we kind of need that money to put a down payment on this, or pay our property tax, or do this, or do that, pay bills. I don't know, okay? I haven't been in a relationship for a little while now, so I haven't lived with somebody else like that, but, like, I can certainly remember and imagine that it would be kind of like that. So for her to just callously be like, oh, no, you already paid the money, okay? Like, you know. So she would obviously, like, go out of her way to scam people. That was Rogue Internet Men's, like, claim. And, you know, she could have just denied it. But instead of doing that, she decided, like, when she was thrown off to the curb because she was acting sus as fuck, she was going to tear down, like, Rogue Internet Man and anybody around him that was still supporting him. There's plenty of people out there that do not support Rogue Internet Man, okay? I freely admit, like, he probably acted like a dick, but you gotta distinguish the person behind the act and the act. It's kind of like how Hypnotist Sappho, she criticizes Coyote Lovely for his smug demeanor, and, like, that's definitely part of the charm of his channel. That's kind of his shtick, okay? You kind of have to distinguish that from the personality, the person that you're actually talking to, because in most cases, you're not directly talking to Coyote Lovely, all right? He's talking to you when he's making those videos, live streams, podcasts, what have you. But anyway, Rogue Internet Man, like, he definitely showed up, Dillin Thomas. The worst thing about it is, Dillin Thomas had sort of quit the whole YouTube scene for a while. He only came back, like, in light of everything that happened to Rogue Internet Man, to smugly, like, celebrate the death of his channel and act like he was the victor. When, like, and everybody saw him for the beta male cuck that he was, so obviously that didn't really garner that much favor with people online. They very much laughed Dillin Thomas's ass right out of there. So, like, for him to act like he was, like, all, like, in the clear, having won and succeeded, like, where Rogue Internet Man had lost, whew. Oh, man, I don't even know what fucking Dillin Thomas is doing right now. I hope it's doing something a little bit better than sucking ass, but I think I've talked about all of this, like, long enough, alright? So, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. If I can think of anything else off the top of my mind, I will be sure to let you all know. But, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed me talking about various YouTubers that have come and gone from a high point of prominence down to a low point. But till next time, guys, take care and peace. I hope you'll have a better one. Hey fellas, thanks for watching the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Would you care to hit that like button and subscribe for more? You know I'd greatly appreciate that, right? And hey, I just made affiliate on Twitch, so how about you check me out sometime if you want to watch me play some video games. Anyway, till next time guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.